Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to the last episode of Black Authors Matter TV for the month of March. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we have a few housekeeping notes before we bring on our first guest. I wanted to let people know the Black Authors Matter TV Awards voting has really taken off. We've gotten about 1,300 ballots so far.
People are so excited.
They are.
Everybody posting about it, hyping their people up. That's what this is all about. So I'm just excited to watch it.
It's great. So the voting continues on. It ends April 3rd, and then we will announce the finalists on April 8th in the five finalists in each of the categories. So be aware of that, and you can continue to vote. You can vote once a day per IP address. So if you can vote on your phone, then you can vote on your laptop or what have you. So,
and look, I'm gonna tell y'all now, don't try to cheat because Gwen knows how to find those people who are cheating. I'm just letting y'all know, and I'm giving y'all fair warning: do not cheat. We know what's going on.
Yeah, people may not think people are watching, but yeah, some people have been automatically excluded because of cheating in the past. We never announced it. They don't even know who they are, but we saw that they were cheating. So, or they had somebody cheat on their behalf. So anyway, this is going to be a fair process. And so we watch it for that reason. We want it to be fair. Also, for the National Black Book Festival, the early bird ends Monday, March 31st. After that, the price goes up, and also the amount of the deposit goes up. We're already at 55% registrations, so we're more than half. So we expect to sell out in May sometime. So be mindful of that. And that's it for now. We don't want to detain our first guest any longer. Oh, one other thing. April 15th, we won't have a show. We have the Easter holiday week coming up. I have extra choir rehearsals, and Rhonda has a professional training that she has to be away for. So it's the Easter holiday week. So we said we would just cancel that show, and then we'll be back. Yeah. Rhonda's not going to be on. So the next 2 weeks, you just get me by myself. And so if Rhonda can tune in for a few minutes, we would be happy about that.
I will definitely do that.
Okay. All right. So our first guest is no stranger to the show. She keeps putting out these amazing books, and she has a brand new book that just came out. I think it came out the 11th. It came out on the 11th. And I've been seeing all kinds of accolades that she's been getting for not only the new book, but she's still getting accolades for The American Queen. So Vanessa Miller, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much for having me.
And it's exciting. Yeah, it's so exciting. Well, before we even get into that, I have my copy of the book. It's on my to-be-read shelf, and along with dozens of other books. But I have it. And I am going to read it at some point. I haven't had.
I have to give you props, Vanessa, because I feel like The American Queen was just released yesterday, and you already have another book that's already doing amazing and getting amazing accolades. So it seems like the historical fiction space is where you are to stay.
Well, I guess, but I may have a little news later on on that, but I am writing another historical right now. So yes, I'm trying to write it. But this little release of the filling station is getting in the way. But I have a deadline, so I have to get this one written. And so, yeah, I am definitely writing another historical.
Well, I'm proud of you, and I'm super happy for all of the flowers that you were getting. We've both been in this literary game for quite a while.
Yeah.
I'm still never gonna forget that rainy Baltimore Book Festival. And
yes.
I think actually where we first met face to face.
Yes.
And you looked like you felt so bad when you had to leave me in the rain, but it's all good because I sold books, you sold books. It was a beautiful thing. But just seeing you, like I said, seeing you get the flowers that you deserve for being an amazing writer. I'm just happy to see it. And I think more authors really need to just applaud each other because we don't need to compete.
Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
we can applaud each other. We can read each other's books. We can promote each other, and that's what it's all about. So I'm always going to give you your flowers, and I'm always going to be clapping for you. And I want to
thank you so much. I really appreciate that because I think that that's what we should do. I'm always trying to support other authors and like you say, clapping for them because I truly believe it might not be your season right now, but you need to be happy and clapping for the person who it is their season because we all know this is a hard business.
It is.
And we all know that, it's sometimes it's fleeting. And we hope for lasting success with our books and things like that, but we have to be happy when we find some success with it because we all know we keep working, we keep trying, and God is good, and we just yes, we just have to keep believing and keep trying to find those readers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like the industry has found a sweet spot with the historical fiction genre for African American stories, beyond just the slavery narrative. All kinds of stories are coming forth, and I hope they continue.
I love that you're making that point, Gwen, because our history is more than just the slave narratives. It doesn't mean that we ignore them, but why not celebrate other parts of our history as well?
Right. And recent history, it's not like forever ago. It's still people living that know about these other issues and situations and people. And I'm glad it's coming to light, with the success of the 688 movie that Tyler Perry did, and then the 3 books about that were written before.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that it keeps going, 1, and 2, that if someone or if 2 books, for example, whatever they are, don't sell as well, that the publishing house, the different publishing houses don't start pulling back, because they are notorious for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the publishing houses have found a sweet spot in historical fiction. There are a lot of historical fiction books that are popping up, and what I'm liking about it is that the books are good.
Yes,
it's thrown together. They're not something that they don't feel like something that somebody wrote because they think they can make a little money off of it. They actually put research in, which leads me to my question for you, Vanessa. Because you've had the American Queen, now the Filling Station, and you're working on your next historical fiction book. How do you find the time to do all of the research that's required for these books? And then how do you edit that back? Because when you start researching, you're finding all of these cool facts.
Yes.
You might want to put all of them in, but you can't put all of them in, and you can't make it sound like a textbook. Because you want to give some history, but it's not a textbook. So
I learned that lesson with the American Queen. as I was writing it, because it was my first time, writing this historical on true facts that I needed to put all in a novel, but I still needed to make it feel like a story.
Right.
And so my editor was just so very helpful with that and helping me to understand. She sent me over to this website where I studied immersive writing. And that's what she was like, I think Luella needs to be told, because I'm a third person writer, but there's this thing called third person, I'm gonna say it wrong, but let's say third person immersive, but there's another word for it. Is that the correct word?
Yeah, there is a first person, there's a third person, and then there's a third person omniscient. I'm wondering if that's what
No. I'm talking about where it's immersive, but it's I think there's another word for it, but it's where you just write it in a way where the reader feels like they're in the action.
Oh, got it.
Instead of feeling like a narrator is telling them about the action. And so she had me study this, and I loved every minute of it. And so if I had not been writing a historical, I never would have learned this way, of writing. And so I'm kind of enjoying it. And it helps me when I'm writing my other historicals I pull myself back and I allow the characters to just dance on stage.
Yes.
So that, it feels like you're with them as a reader.
Oh, yeah. People want to feel like the characters are their friends, like they really know them.
Yes.
Now, I will tell you, when I first read The American Queen, I felt like Luella was almost too strong. I wondered if she really loved her husband, because she just seemed like she seemed mean in certain ways. I think it's because she loved so hard. Is that something that you were looking for?
No, again, I was writing her as if she didn't really know if she loved her husband in the beginning, but because of his goodness to her, because she never tells him that she loves him until I can't say until what, because there may be some readers who haven't read it.
So but I read it and I know when it is.
Right. And so yeah. And so, but that was because of, I developed her like that because of the fact that she had lost so much.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes a person can harden their heart when they, they keep losing and losing and losing. And it's to the point where you don't want to feel anymore. But William was, such a guy that, she couldn't help but feel for him. I love King William.
Let me just let you know, this is what it is. You gonna love me.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like when and this can be in a novel or real life, when you've been hurt so many times or you've had so much loss, you really are afraid to love again, to put everything in it again, because you don't want to have that feeling again.
That was Luella, yes.
Yeah.
Queen Luella.
Yes, Queen Luella. So tell us about the filling station.
So the filling station is, I'm actually combining two different historical facts in the book. The Threet Filling Station is a real place that is now a historical site because they provided shelter and safety for some people who were escaping the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And this Threet Filling Station is on Route 66 in Luther, Oklahoma. So it was one of the only places that Black people could safely stop to refuel before they would enter a sundown town. Okay. So it wasn't the only, but it was one of the few. And so I wanted to explore this idea of a safe haven in this book. And so that's why, you see it's titled The Filling Station instead of Greenwood. But I then blend in the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And Margaret and Evelyn are two sisters who have gone through this massacre, and they escape and they find themselves at the Threep filling station. And this is where they rebuild themselves, and they are able then to go back to Greenwood and rebuild their homes and businesses. Because a lot of people may have heard about the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre, but they don't know the fact that this area was able to rebuild they were able to rebuild their homes and their businesses, and they became more prosperous than they were back in 1921 before the massacre. So 1925, a parade goes down Greenwood, and they have this convention announcing that they are back in business. And because people would come from all over to visit Greenwood, well, after this massacre, people are afraid to come to Greenwood. So that's why they have this convention, and they bring people back there so they can see that Greenwood is a safe place to be, and the businesses are reopened, and they really begin to do even better business than what they did before. And you got to understand that Booker T. Washington dubbed them Negro Wall Street in the early 1900s, because he passes away in 1915. So they are dubbed Negro Wall Street, early on. And today we know the term as Black Wall Street, but they were doing better business after that. And so that was something I wanted to celebrate, because I wanted to write a story about resilience. And that's what this book is about, the resilience of our people.
Well, the filling station sounds like a perfect name for a book about resilience.
Yes, it is. So filling station is two ways.
Is it a metaphor and an actual? Okay.
Yes, the actual filling station. And then there's a meaning for how we refuel our soul after we go through devastating situations. How do you fill yourself back up?
Okay, now, was the title your genius? Or I think it's a perfect title because it's so short and memorable.
Yeah,
it's important to have an impact on the reader. It's easy to share it. It's easy to tell people. It's easy to remember.
Correct. Now, I don't always get my title that I select. For instance, The American Queen was not my title. My publisher emailed me one day, and I turned the proposal in, and all I said was Kingdom of the Happy Land, because I didn't know what else to call it. And they emailed me one day, and they were like, Vanessa, what if we call this The American Queen? And I knew immediately that was the title for it. So, but this one, I actually turned the proposal in with the title, The Filling Station. So it stuck with it because it just felt nostalgic. And I think they all love the title as well.
Yeah, because that's what people used to call a gas station.
Yes.
It was called a filling station. And,
absolutely.
If you look at some older films, you see, because we don't really have a memory of it now, but like in Back to the Future, when the people pulled into the gas station, a whole crew comes out to check your air pressure. People didn't pump their own gas.
Correct.
That was, I'm trying to remember when that changed. Was it the 90s?
Because see, when I was little, I still remember they were pumping our gas. And so, but yeah, so we showed that in this book.
Sometimes Oregon was still doing it. I remember driving through Oregon and stopping for gas, and we got ready to pump our gas, and the man came up and said, it's illegal to pump your gas in this state. I was like, oh, okay. And so they actually had service people who pumped your gas for you, cleaned your windshield, and they did not take a tip.
I think New Jersey,
but they did it years ago, about 20 years ago.
I think New Jersey is still you don't pump your gas in New Jersey. I think I
Okay.
saw that on the news recently, somebody mentioning it, that that's still the case in New Jersey. So, but it used to be everywhere
Right.
where people did not pump their own gas. And definitely not women, but
Correct.
it wasn't a
I
thing.
still try not to pump my own gas. I try to make sure my husband is in the car with me
Exactly.
when we need gas.
I don't want pumping the gas. No, I don't. Yeah.
It doesn't bother me, and so I've had to learn to adjust to it. Even when my husband was riding with me a lot, he couldn't. He's tech, but he's not necessarily tech savvy with what things are now, and he couldn't figure out how to do the credit card at the pump. So
Mm.
I would end up doing it anyway. I said I'll just do the whole thing. So it doesn't bother me. And now I'm out a lot by myself. So when
Right.
I'm driving, so you know, but that's what it used to be. It used to be called a filling station. And now years past, Black people in the South couldn't use the restrooms at the gas stations a lot of
Correct.
times
Mm-hmm.
when they would travel. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was the case in the northern states, in the Midwest or the West. It was
Right.
basically in the South where people couldn't. Uh, they could stop, but they couldn't. They could get gas. Of
Right.
course, they would take your
Oh
money.
yeah, they wanted the money,
They wanted your
but
money,
but
but you couldn't use the facilities. And if you ate, you would have to eat. Get your food from the back door.
mm,
These are
yeah,
things that used to be the case when we were,
yeah.
back in the day, and we have to appreciate that we're not there now. So, and we haven't been there, and we can, uh, go in the front door. And now, if you can afford to eat wherever it is now is, you have to know if you can afford to eat wherever it is, but um, you can go in and sit down and eat, and that's not
And
something.
we pray that continues.
Well,
Right.
that will continue because guess what? We're not going to be going back anywhere. So, we are not going back.
Or
So,
I will not spend my money there if
Exactly.
you
yeah,
tell
yeah.
me
I
to
mean,
go
we
to the
have we
back
have the
door.
power
And
to make
we have more
choices and
choices now.
decisions.
We
Yeah,
have more options,
That's
and this
absolutely.
takes nothing away from our ancestors from back in those days because often they didn't have the same options. They had
They
no,
didn't
they
have the
didn't. They
options.
didn't have the
Mm-mm.
option. It
No,
was foreboding.
no. Right.
Um, okay, Tony Benita said they were pumping gas when I got what is DL?
think she meant
Oh,
drivers.
driver's license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to let you know what Robin Pendleton said.
She
She ordered more copies of the filling station to ensure others read about this massacre and resilience of our people.
She
So,
is so good to me. She is so good to me. And
Hey,
anybody else out there, books make great gifts. So,
yes.
so if you want to go grab copies of the filling station, I greatly appreciate it. And if you want to grab them from indie bookstores, because those indie bookstores are the ones who put me on the USA Today bestseller list last week, go grab it from one of those indie bookstores, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
that experience. Was this your first time hitting the USA Today?
First time ever.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even check the list because I didn't believe I had made it.
That's
so I said, nope, I'm going on tour. I said, I love this book. I believe in this book. So I'm going to do everything I can to promote it. I'm not going to even worry about it because I honestly didn't think I was going to make a list.
Right.
And it was Lashira Lee sent me a message on it was probably about 10 o'clock at night, and I see this 97, 98, and 99, and 98 had the filling station on it, and I look up and it says USA Today, and I was like, what is that? I was confused because what is this? And then I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's not USA Today. Then I started jumping up. I woke my husband up.
Yeah, that's a good reason to wake him up.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was excited once he figured out what was going on. And I was like, what is going on here? I was actually shocked. Like I say, I didn't even check the list because I didn't believe it was on there. So I will be checking the list tomorrow though and see if it stays. But even if it doesn't stay, hey, I'm a
You can
USA
say,
Today
yes,
bestseller.
yeah, you can claim the title. Yeah,
Absolutely. But yeah,
that's
that was my first time all these years. That was my first time making the list.
Congratulations. That's an amazing.
Thank you.
yeah, that's an amazing accomplishment and good, and it helps book sales
Uh,
because
we hope.
people you refer to those lists for books to read, and they figure, if people are buying it, it must be good, or it must be worthy of reading or investing
Mhm.
in or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's really, really great. Glad to hear that. So now I wanted to the cover of the book.
Mhm.
I always like to really look at book covers. I think they're so amazing. So this is our main character, the lady on the cover. Is she our main character?
Yes, that's Margaret.
Okay, all right. And you have the motif of an actual filling station where you have the gas. Now, did you look at old pictures of gas filling stations for your design in
It just
terms
went
of
out.
Oh,
when they
okay.
did
Okay,
I
there
the
you go.
wasn't sure if it was just me or if it was you, Gwen, or if
Oh,
Yeah, Gwen kind of went out for a minute.
I did. And you know
Mhm.
what just flashed on my screen was my internet connection was restored. So I didn't
Uh-huh.
even know it was gone. But I was asking about your cover
Mhm.
and the did you refer to old photographs of gas stations from that time period for this motif? Or did your publisher do that?
I draw stick figures, so I
Okay.
didn't do this cover. My publisher, yes, they referred to. They knew that that's how the gas pumps were during that time with the globe at the top, and
Mm-hmm.
so yes, and then the car they have the car here that was the style in the 1920s. So they did an excellent job, and the house there. That's how the filling station was a three filling station because where the people would go in to purchase like their snacks or whatever, it
Mm-hmm.
was like a house right there where the filling station was. So that's the way it was built. And so I like the way they did that. They did an excellent job on this cover.
They
I love
did.
I'm
And
also seeing I'm also
she's
seeing
dressed
vibes
like
of
she's
the
going
American.
somewhere.
Did you mean for that to look that way with the American flag in the background?
I didn't hear you.
I was looking at it looks like red, white, and blue in the background. I was wondering if that was intentional.
I,
I can't
I don't see red, white, and
No,
blue.
it's
it
more like
it might just be my
watercolors.
computer because it looked like red, white, and blue to me. I thought
It's purple and
No, it's
pinks
watercolors, like a
and
sunset
yellow.
almost.
yeah,
The
Hmm.
it does.
different
It
colors
looks
of a
like a
sunset.
sunset, but it also looked like red, white, and blue. I wasn't sure if that was something that you meant to do.
No, there's no red, white, and blue on
Okay,
it.
that might just be my computer, girl.
Hmm.
Sometimes colors can look different on the computer. Oh, and you got an
Absolutely.
endorsement statement from Jodi Picoult.
I
It's on the cover.
did. I
She
did. It
good.
was so wonderful of her. I contacted her and I said, I told her I wrote this book, and she said, I'm familiar with the Tulsa Race Massacre. She said, send me the book. And so she was getting ready to go out on tour. So we didn't know if we were going to get the endorsement from her. But so my editor was like, okay, well, we can wait until December when you're back. And she read that book in that weekend and sent us the quote the next Monday. And we were shocked that
Wow.
we got it that
I
because
love
she
the fact that she took the time to actually read the book. You
she
know,
did.
it wasn't a chat GPT thing. It wasn't write it for me and put my name on it. She
Mm-mm.
took time to write the book and give you a heartfelt review. And that's
She
wonderful.
did. She did. And we were very appreciative of it because we knew she was busy. And she wasn't just going on a regular tour. She was doing an American tour and an overseas tour.
Oh, wow.
So that's why she was going to be gone a while. And I was like, wow, that she took the time to read it and give us a review. I mean, an endorsement that quick. And matter of fact, I emailed her when it made USA Today, and I thanked her because I know, like, some of the bookstore owners, they pointed to her quote to me. So I know that that's why some of the indies even took the book in, because she bothered to give me a quote when she was busy and didn't, and you had to find the time to do it. But I think she felt like it was something, a worthy cause to do, because of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. I don't know if it had been another book, if she would have taken the time, but she was like, I'm familiar with that, send it over. And she turned that endorsement right on in, and I appreciate it.
Now, did you already have a relationship with her?
Nope.
Or you just reached out like on a fluke and was hoping for the best?
I reached out. Same with Lisa Wingate. Now I have a relationship with Lisa. But when I reached out to her to do an endorsement for the first book, she did an endorsement for me on was Something Good, and I just told her I was just coming back to traditional publishing, and I didn't. Now we need endorsements, because the game had changed on me while I was gone. I didn't know you need endorsements, and so I was like, I need an endorsement. And she emailed me back, and she said, I've been where you are. She was like, I understand you need a hand up. She said, send me the book, and I sent her the book, and the rest is history, because she turned me into a historical fiction writer. If it wasn't for Lisa Wingate, I would still be trying to sell my women's fiction. And that was hard. so it's been a little easier trying to sell these historicals, but yeah. And so yeah, Jody just she responded. I had asked her for an endorsement one other time, and she responded then too, and she couldn't do it, but she responded and said,
and sometimes that means a lot, that they just took the time to respond.
Correct. Because some people, let me tell you, some people will not even respond to you. And so that's why when people write something to me, or I try my best to respond, because I know how it feels when they just ignore you. I mean, you might not be able to do it, but you can take that moment to let people know why you can't do it. It doesn't take but a moment. And so then the second I said, you know what? Okay, she couldn't do that one. I forget what book it was on. But I was like, okay, I'm coming back and I'm gonna ask again. and so I was like, okay, if she says no this time, I won't bother her anymore. But God knew it was time. And so I'm thankful.
Awesome. Well, Vanessa, we're at the end of our time, but we really appreciate you being back on the show. Congratulations on the success of the Filling Station and The American Queen. And we look forward to your next historical fiction book, which will probably be out in 2026. Am I
yeah, late 2026. Right?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you're still writing. That's why I said.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right. Well, take care. And I look forward to reading it. And
okay, thank you guys.
Doing it.
All right, okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's Vanessa. She's really, making some moves. That's really great to see somebody's trajectory of their career where you kind of followed them for years, and that's what it takes. You have to be persistent and consistent. And who knows which book might be the one to really catapult.
That's foot forward, because you don't know what content is going to go viral. You don't know what book is going to sell not only that book, but on your entire backlist and put you on a trajectory up. You just don't know. Just keep going.
Right. And doing quality work. Well, our next guest is BriAnn Danae, and she's with Black Odyssey Media, one of our publishing partners, whose authors we have on the show, normally close to their release date, if not on their release date, for their books. And BriAnn Danae, I'm hoping I pronounced it correctly, is here with her new book. She's going to be talking about her her new book that just came out. When did it come out? Or it's coming. Is it out today or next Tuesday?
Yes, no, it released today, but it'll be in stores April 1st. So
Okay.
please
Okay.
out next
Well,
week.
okay. Well, happy release day and welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being.
Now, it's your book. Do you have a copy of your book?
I do.
Okay. It's called Jack Girls Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay, Jack Girls Atlanta. It's already a spicy name. You're going to have to tell us about this book.
Okay. So you want me to go ahead and tell you about it?
Yeah. Tell us what's a Jack Girl?
So the title was presented to me from my publisher Entice and or Shawanda, if you know her, she's with Black Artists. So she said, I want you to write something with corporate scamming. I don't want you to write anything that anyone has ever read, which is always my forte when I'm writing a new book. I love writing something that I want to read. So when she brought that to me, I said, okay, let me do some thinking. What is something that I haven't read about before? So the girls are scamming pharmaceutical. They're scamming the pharmaceutical company, their dad's pharmaceutical company, because he is a horrible father. And it's based out of Atlanta. He owns a pharmaceutical company. It's 3 sisters, and their parents have a lot of secrets from their past, and it all comes out when they figure out a missing person came up, and their parents are tied to it, and just a lot of secrets and betrayal and their childhood. They have a lot of questions about. So that's where the story came from. They're not like robbing anyone but their parents or but their father, robbing their father.
Oh, well. So now, is this your first book?
No. Mm-mm.
I didn't think so. Have you written about Jack Girls before?
I have, but not on this level. I have a series called Girls Just Want to Have Funds, like money. They just want to have money. And
Okay.
I caught that at the end.
they have funds. So that was a little bit different. They were doing a lot of everything to get what they wanted. But this one, they were just scamming their father, which was rightfully so. He was not a good person. Matthew Grant was not a good father. So
Okay, so his name is Matthew Grant, the dad that's not that could do better. Let me say it like that.
he had chances. So yeah.
So
Well,
go ahead, Mom. No, go
Now,
ahead.
I'm going to ask what inspired you to write about this specific subject, about Jack Girls. You know, every story deserves to be told, but why did you decide to tell this story?
So I knew I wanted the story to be about family, and I love writing strong relationships between friends or sistership. And so I said, someone has to be the like I don't think I've written about a horrible parent on page. They may have been mentioned or talked about, but most of the time they're in the background. And so I wanted to show that, even in the corporate world, even if you're a successful Black family, even if, you are at the top of your game and you have this beautiful home, something in your past, is a little shaky. Something, and I just wanted to show like the strong sistership between sisters and like forgiveness of their mother, because their mother plays a huge role in this book as well. Something happens to her right in the prologue that actually is a shift of the family dynamic. And so it was just easier for me. It was easy for me to, once I knew like what I wanted, once I found the culprit, which was the father, I was like, oh, the sisters are, and all the sisters aren't against him. One, the oldest feels like she has to carry everything on her back. The middle child is kind of overlooked. And then the youngest child is competing with herself, basically trying to please her father because of what he's accomplished and where she wants to be in life. And lots of secrets come out, and it's just, I really enjoyed writing this one. It tested everything in me because it's my first time writing a women's crime thriller. And so I just thank Shawanda for pushing me making me push my pen to the test.
Shawanda's good people, and she's a real literary advocate, and that's what I like about her. You can tell that she's not in it just for the money. She's in it to help to uplift other authors.
Because I could easily written about something else, and she was like, "No, I want you to push the pen. Let's see what you bring. Let's see what you know." And I was like, "Okay, that's it is. Let's do that."
Yeah, she's also accessible.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and not everybody, well, I would say in the industry, not everybody is. You know, a lot of times people feel like they don't need to respond to people unless it's like Good Morning America. They'll respond to that. But they don't realize that your community is the foundation for wherever you're going to go. And when Good Morning America is no longer calling, your foundation, your readership is what's going to keep your career going.
Absolutely. It is. I believe that 100%.
Yeah. So you are a hybrid author.
Yes.
So you've done self-publishing and traditional publishing.
Yes.
So when did you first get started with your writing career, and how many books have you written?
Excuse me. So I've always been a reader. So let's start there. I've always read. I was the girl in class that raised her hand to read. Like, okay, nobody wants to read, I'm gonna read. So in college, 2015, the month before I graduated, I entered a short story contest. I don't know if you are familiar with Nako. She's an author and a good friend of mine. She had a short story contest in her group, and I entered it, but I went over the word count. And so I sent it to her, and she was like, "No, you need to publish." I'm like, "Girl, what are you talking about? I just wanted to write something." And so I made it a mission of mine to complete that story by, I think, Thanksgiving. I submitted it to a publisher. I was signed by December, and I have been writing since 2015. So my first book came out in 2016. I have been an author since then, and it's my career. So I have about 79 books.
Wow. 79 books.
79 books in 10 years?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Now, are they all full-length stories?
Oh, no, they're all not
novellas. You got some novellas in there?
I said some of them were probably novellas or short stories.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But that's awesome. I mean, what do you find yourself writing about a specific subject, or is it kind of a variety?
No, I write in many genres. So I started with urban fiction, and then it's into urban romance, which is really my lane. I found my lane there. And then I wrote erotica. I have a urban fantasy that I've written that the readers are begging me to get back to, about black fairies and genies that have golds and cast spells. And so I just test my pen wherever I feel the creative kick in. And like I always say, I want to always read and write. I always want to write something I want to read. So it may be out there, but it's not for me. So I always want to write something that is intriguing and pulls me in and makes me want to see how the story unfolds. And I feel like that's what readers want as well. So yeah, that's how my journey got started with writing. It just took off. But this journey with Jack Girls took off. I just want to give a special shout out to Danielle Marcus. She's an author under Black as well, but she's also independent. She reached out to me and said, "Hey, were you looking to get published in stores?" And surprisingly, I put that on my prayer board like a week before, or the beginning of the year. And Shawanda actually reached out to me to write Jack Girls, and I was just blown away. And like God just said, "You know what? Yes, you asked, you shall receive," and it's here. So you got to get ready. You asked for it. And so this was truly a testimony to my faith and the journey I've been on for 10 years. It'll be my 10-year anniversary come this November of me like finishing my first book. So I'm just super ecstatic, and I'm just happy to be here.
Sounds like you have no signs of stopping.
No. Mm-mm. Nope. I'm here for the long haul, God willing, as long as I can type and get these thoughts on the screen and to the page. No
Yes.
stopping.
Now, are you from Atlanta or have you ever lived in Atlanta?
I lived in Atlanta when I was younger, but I'm not from there. I'm from Kansas City. So
Oh, okay. So what made you pick Atlanta as your
That's
setting?
right.
I
Hmm.
she gave me the title. She gave me the title, and so I was
Oh,
hey, well, sometimes you pick your own title and you do what you want, but she gave me like the title was already set in stone because there's a Jack Girls already. It's Jack Girls is Danielle Marcus has a Jack Girls. And so
okay. That's where because I think she's been on the show. So that was where I knew I had heard the title somewhere, and I knew it was somebody who's been on the show.
yes, and so she's like, we want to do one in a different city. And
Oh,
she said, do you know anyone? Do you know anyone who can write this type of well, I don't think she knew what type of story she wanted me to write, but she said yes, and she recommended me, and I was just so humbled by that because I was like, out of all the authors out there, indie, traditional, she reached out to me, and I just thank her for that because that's unwavering love and support over the years. We've always supported each other. So seeing her in my inbox that morning, I was like, what is happening right now? But yes, so that's how we got there. I didn't pick the title. I'm not from Atlanta. It's no Atlanta lingo in here. A reader asked
okay.
it because I'm from Atlanta.
Because Atlanta folks will know.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's not that. They're from Atlanta. It's some restaurants or something, little landmarks, but that's as far as it went. I'm sorry to the Atlanta folks. Got your hopes up a little bit.
So did you read the first Jack Girls book and continue with the characters, or is this a whole different set of characters?
This is a whole different set. No, so
Okay.
that one because I knew our stories were different.
Okay.
So I was like, no, I want to go in fresh mind. I don't want to have any of like, oh, maybe I should play off of this because it's that book, but there's no connection. Mm-mm.
Okay. Where the term do you know where the term Jack Girls emanated from? Where did it, a lot of times we don't know where things come from. And
Oh,
sometimes we do, but do you know where it came from?
I don't know. I know I've heard about Jack boys, like a Jack boy. They still, but I don't know where it originally came from. No.
Okay. I'll say I didn't know about either one. I didn't know it was a thing. It's like a saying
I
of
wouldn't say
term.
old term. No, I mean people still get called like the Jack boys, and I guess maybe that's an Atlanta term.
Could be.
I feel like I've heard that in Atlanta before, like the Jack boys.
Rhonda, have you heard of it? Okay, so
I'm sorry. I don't have any Jack girl in my
Now, if you read the book, you may be on the sister side and become, a Jack girl. You might. I would, depend.
You know what? I'm gonna find out. I am going to get the Jack Girls Atlanta, and I'm going to see. I don't know if I have any Jack Girl in me, but
And they didn't either. They didn't either. It was more of a let me scheme and investigate and stalk, figure out like how I can get this money by tomorrow type of thing. Yeah, it was one of those. So they didn't think they had it in them either. But I made them do what they had to do to get their revenge. I made them.
So is it like an updated version of Set It Off?
No, I wouldn't set it off. Now, it could have went there.
sometimes I can't control what Gwen says. So
No, because I did get that question. They're like, what movie would you compare it to? And I was like, I really wouldn't compare it to any movie. It's really a book of its own that you have to read and
Okay.
envision the scenes play out because I couldn't compare it to any movie. Not Set It Off because they weren't robbing the bank. So that's why when she brought me the idea, I was like, I can do so much new, fresh ideas with this because it's corporate and something new that I wanted to read, like, or never even heard about, so that was exciting.
Yeah. Well, with the way money moves now, it's kind of easy to do a heist because you don't need to go into the bank to steal money now with all the digital stuff and crypto and just, I don't really understand crypto. People say you can make money, but I stay away from things I don't understand.
Right. Yeah.
That's where if I don't, and then whenever I ask somebody, okay, how do I get my money out? Then, because I said you got to, at some point you have to deal with a bank to get your money. So they never really have a credible answer for me on that.
And then that leaves you like, oh, well, this can't be right then. This can't be.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's like, to me, it's like something a tech person hopes will catch on, but it's so far removed from the normal way people do transactions that I'm not sure that it will be like mainstream for the average person to participate
in. And some things are set up where everybody is not it's not accessible,
Right.
Or knowledgeable. Some people just don't have the patience to learn new things, which, if it's not in your field or your lane, then that's okay.
Yeah, but stocks used to not be accessible for people, but then they became accessible, and you can get your money out.
Yeah.
By selling.
Yeah.
On the exchange. So that's how you get your money. But with crypto, I know of people who have those like crypto machines where they're generating crypto coins or something.
I've seen people post and they make good money, but I'm like, that's just one other thing that would probably stress me out.
Yeah, and it also increases your utility bills because it requires a lot of energy to do.
Wow.
Produce the coin.
I did not know.
Yeah, I found that out just by talking to people who tried it. So I think sometimes people are trying to get rich quick, and that's not, generally it doesn't end well when you try to do a get rich quick. It's a scheme, it's a scam, or you lose your money, or you go to jail, or it ends badly. That's, so be careful. If it sounds too good to be true, that it normally is too good to be true. So that's a rule of thumb in that situation. So now, do you have a Jack Girls St. Louis coming up, or from another city?
No, and I did ask her, like, hey, I'm from Kansas City, we should do one from there. I don't know. We'll have to see. It wasn't in the works. I just turned in my second traditional published book that comes out next year, but that's a romance. It's a workplace. Okay. So totally different from this one, but I wouldn't mind venturing back into women's crime thriller. I had a good time writing this. And at first I was like, oh, it's gonna be so hard, but I like thriller shows. So in documentaries and movies, I hardly ever watch TV, but if it's something that has action, I was like, oh, why did I think I wouldn't be able to, flesh this story out the way I envisioned it? Because it's just a moving parts on every page. It's moving parts. It's plot twist.
Okay.
So we may get a Jack Girls Kansas City or not Chicago or whatever other city she said.
Yeah, I was
New Orleans. Jack Girls New Orleans.
Jack Girls New Orleans. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be good.
It would.
That would be good. Houston's so big. I don't know if you could really make it work.
See a Jack Girl Houston too.
Oh, yeah.
You think so?
I could see New Orleans as far as like
New Orleans to me will be a more natural fit.
No, what I was saying, put a spin or add a twist to it where you have the fantasy aspect and I'm a text her get off of here and say, hey,
we gave you some ideas. You can get off the show and start writing.
Yes.
Just put me in a dedication. That's all I ask.
You're not going to be requesting any royalties on this one. So, so speaking of royalties, I got an email today from, I don't know if I'm spilling the beans, but if I am, so what? From KDP that they're doing a beta of audiobooks.
Mm.
And that my books were selected to be part of the beta.
That's exciting.
Yeah, because I've been wanting to do, they're going to use computer generated voicing though.
Oh.
So I don't know how good it'll be, but I've been wanting
offers that. I'm always, I don't want my story to sound robotic though.
Yeah.
So I'm just be natural.
Well, they have say I haven't finished the process of finishing pulling the trigger on it because it's some steps you had to go through. But one of them was the different voices. You could pick an American voice or a British voice. You could pick different accents. That was one of the options. So, and then you could click to listen to what it would sound like. But I was on my way out the door at the office on my way home. So I said I would just finish when I got home sometime tonight and do it. So I thought that was interesting. I would prefer to get somebody to do the voicing, but if that's a way to get your stuff on audio inexpensively or free, because it's the same way the books are, it's just royalties. If somebody orders it, then you get a royalty.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something new that I just got that email today.
When do I
don't know how broad it is, but I was excited. So, BriAnn, you said you're working on a romance for your next book, and you got what number did you say you had? 70? Well, how many books did you say you
had? I think I'm 79.
79 books.
Working on number 80.
I'm amazed that people are able to write that many stories. Even if half of them are novellas, that's still a whole bunch of stories.
Yes, it is.
In a short amount of time. 10 years is not that long. That's average of 7 a year.
I think one year, excuse me, I wrote 15 or 18 maybe. Back in 2000, I'm saying like it's so long ago. It feels like it wasn't long ago, but in 2016 and 17, I was just writing. We was putting them out. So the way the industry is now and the way the readers are now is exactly how it used to be back then. Like we were dropping books I was dropping a book probably every 3 weeks, finishing a book every 3 weeks to 4 weeks.
How long do you take in a writing sprint? Are you writing sprints 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours?
It depends. I don't normally do writing sprints until I'm at the end of the book because that's when my kick to finish like kicks in, and I could be up for like 48 hours, 72 hours, quick little naps, maybe 3 hours of sleep because I know my body will not rest until I am done with a book. So I don't really do sprints at the beginning because I don't even know. I always say this: the characters don't know me, and I don't know them. I don't know. We're here at the same time, y'all. This first little half of the book. Give me a second, to feel y'all out and y'all trust me with y'all story. That's kind of how I look at it. Like, when you first meet somebody, you don't tell them all your business. So that's how it is with characters. So after that first 25,000 words, that's when I'm in the groove, and then that's when the character development kicks in and you get to know about, the background and why they act the way they act, why they move the way they move, building a story up on the way. So
it's amazing. I'm still amazed at how many people are writing.
Yes. Every day it's new.
A lot of people.
I just tell people, write the story that's on your heart. Never forget why you started. When anyone asks me, hey, what is some advice you'll give somebody who wants to get to writing? Start. Yeah. It doesn't matter. You can voice note it. You can put it in your notes. I wrote my first 8 books I didn't have a laptop. And my first number 1 was written on my dad's iPad and a keyboard. That was in 2016. I was writing in my campus library, the computer lab. I was using my roommate's laptop. If you want it bad enough, you'll do it. You'll do whatever you can to get to it. And so
that is true.
it's
Well, unfortunately, we've reached the top of the hour.
okay.
But I really enjoyed talking with you, and I was loving hearing about your whole thought process and how you approach writing. And I would love to stay connected with you. And I'm definitely going to be reading the Jack Girls Atlanta.
Okay.
I might have a little inner Jack girl in me. You never know.
You might. Yes, I loved it so much. So thank you guys for having me on.
Well,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. And continued success with all the books you're writing. Just amazing.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, so that was interesting. When people tell me that somebody said it's a scam, I don't think so. This Kenneth Davis, don't do it, it's a scam. I don't think it's a scam if he's talking about the audiobook because it came from Amazon. It came from KDP.
Right. If it
And
came
they
from
tell you to log into your account. It's a step-by-step thing to log in. And they did beta when they did a hardcover books. They had a beta test to do. But I appreciate your looking out because some things can be scammy. But no, this came from Amazon because they told you step by step what was going to happen and how to log into your account. And
yeah,
I'm
think sometimes
wary of scams.
I understand why people are wary of things.
Yes.
There are a lot of scams out there, but
There
you
are.
do have to consider the source when
Right.
you're looking at opportunities.
Right. If they had information on there that a person wouldn't know. And when I logged into my Amazon account, what they said in the email was there. Everything that they said was actually in my account. So, but I appreciate the looking out because there are scams, everywhere. There are people everywhere trying to get a quick buck on dishonesty. So, our next guest is not new to the show, but it's been a while since he's been on the show, and he has actually 2 new books, and he writes under 2 different names. One is a pen name for his novels, and the other one he writes under his own name. So Harold Phifer, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV. I think it's been a couple of years since you've been on.
Yes, it's been a while. Nice to get back with you, Ms. Richardson, and glad to be here. How you guys doing?
Doing great. I remember when you came on before, you were in I think you were in Afghanistan. Is that right?
Right, you're right.
And there was a time difference. It was like a day. We were a day before, a day after, or something. And so, are you still overseas? Or are you in the States?
Yeah, I'm in Iraq right now. So
You only want to talk to us when you're out of the country.
bad
Do you
time.
spend
Bad
most of your
time.
time out of the country? Do you spend most of your time out of the country?
I do. Right now, I do.
Which part of Iraq are you in?
Uh, let's see it. They
Can
call it
you say, are you a contract? Are you in the military? Or are you like a contractor?
contractor.
Okay.
They call it al-Baghdadi. I guess the
I've heard
Iraqis
of
would,
that.
but most of the military call it al-Assad. But
Oh,
they
Alice.
refer to it
Yeah.
different. Mhm.
I was stationed in Iraq for a little while. I was also in Afghanistan for a little while.
Okay.
And I'm just glad I'm home in the States now.
No, I know, I understand.
Yeah, I don't know if you told me you went to Iraq and Afghanistan.
I didn't tell you that.
No, you told me, what you talk about the most in terms of where you went, and you talk about it with the most happiness is Belgium.
Yes, I love Belgium. I really enjoyed my time. I was there for almost 5 years. But no, well, I did 23 years in the Army, and I did 7 months in Afghanistan, and I did a year in Iraq.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So
Well,
well,
yeah,
I'm
well,
always learning things about my co-host that I didn't know.
It's so funny because somebody will come on the show and say, I'm in so and so. I'm like, oh, I've been there. I used to live there. Like, dang, women like, dang, Ryan, how many places have you lived?
That's true. But if you're in the service,
It's the military. The military.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you
they
live
do move
all
you
over the
on.
world.
Hmm.
So now, did you serve in the military, Harold?
No, went college to work with the FAA. Kind of got tired of that and start contracting
Oh, okay. All right.
and,
Well, and writing,
and writing. There you
and
go.
writing.
That's actually what I was going to ask you. Did the writing come along while you, because being deployed, even as a civilian contractor, you're
Mhm.
over there just like the soldiers are. So
Right.
you have a lot of time to yourself. Is that when you decided you wanted to start writing?
That's not why, but um, in my previous book, Surviving Chaos: How I Found Peace at a Beach Bar, I talked about our camp getting attacked by a suicide bomber. So,
Mm.
so kind of let me digress a little bit. Because of my childhood, the way I grew up, I was like, man, I'm gonna write a book one day. Since I was like 14. So back to being bombed and thinking I'm gonna die. One of the things was I said I was gonna write that book, and I never wrote that book. So I started to, right before death, feeling guilt, and I vowed, God, if you let me make it out of here, I'll write that book. So since that time, I started writing. You know,
Well, yeah, that would be one of those world-changing, life-changing events
and
to,
it was.
if you had something on a bucket list to make you do it, or if you don't have a bucket list to make one, uh, living a certain number of years does that too. But
Mhm.
when you cheat death, so to speak, then
That's what it
a lot of
was.
people say that they have that's a motivation to write, to tell their
So
story.
in my case, it wasn't a near-death experience for me, but somebody who I really looked up to was killed in Iraq.
Wow.
And the only thing I can picture is that he probably had a smile on his face all the way up until the end. He was on a helicopter that was shot down.
Mm.
And um, and I started to wonder, like, this man has probably done everything that he wanted to do in life because he was a command sergeant major. He was our choir director. He was athletic. And everybody looked up to him. I said, he's probably done everything that he's wanted to do in life. And he was called home. I said, have I done everything that I wanted to do in life? And when I had that thought, I said, I've been sitting on writing a book and not knowing what to do. I'm gonna get started. And that night, I wrote query letters to about 16 different agents, publishing houses, and that was how I was able to publish my first book. And then I've just been writing ever since then. So sometimes those moments do happen where you do have that moment of self-reflection.
Mhm.
Uh, where you wonder, am I doing what God meant for me to do? And for me, it was that experience. For you, it was your own near death experience. But it's always some type of experience that just gets you to start to think, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah. And what I remember from your previous interview, because it really stuck with me, that you had a mother who was
Schizophrenic.
had mental challenges.
Right.
Either she was bipolar or something to that effect. And you described some of the things you went through during that experience. And that stuck with me. It stood out. Because, I had an excellent mother. And sometimes when I talk to people their mothers either weren't they were absent, or it was chaotic, or it just wasn't a peaceful upbringing. your mother does so much for you in terms of just being there, and someone that you always know, no matter what, your mama is who you can count on, period. And when people don't have that, I really feel I have a heart for those people, because if you've had an excellent mother, and my mother's passed 20 years, more than 20 years now, but she was just excellent, in every way. She taught me a lot. And even some of the mistakes she made, she taught me that, because my mother was from the generation where wives were long suffering. And she said, no, you don't want to be that. And I saw that I didn't want to be that. But even then, she always carried herself with dignity, always, always. So you have um, a book under your name, Harold Phifer, then you have another book under your pen name. I'm assuming it's your pen name. Or is it someone who's writing, someone you're publishing? So, and they're two totally different kinds of books.
Yeah,
so let's talk about the first one. Do you have your books handy so you can show it to us?
I got this one.
My bully, my aunt, and her final gift.
Right. I talked about it a lot in my first book, and people started asking me about that aunt. So, like, well, there's more. Like, so I decided then she needed a book of her own. So I wrote My Bully, My Aunt, and Her Final Gift. And it starts out almost kind of mean spirit, I admit that. But you got to establish who she was. And once I got that established, it just almost humor from there. I'm just peeling back all the funny, wild things that happened. And they're funny now, but they weren't funny then. Or if your mom or your parent tell you, go get me a switch. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. Or they tell you, I'm gonna beat the mess out of you, or beat the dog mess out of you. It wasn't funny then, but it's funny now, right? So it's stuff like that I shed on in the book, because even though a lot of, I guess you say, trauma did happen, like I didn't want people to focus on the trauma. I wanted to entertain. I want to bring them with me, laugh with me, see the craziness. But I'm okay. But I want you to see it and get a kick at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it a parody, or is it like a memoir part two?
It's like a memoir part two. It's all true. Well, 85% of it true. That's the abnormal. That's the abnormal. I talk about you know, the guy was like a the pastor was like a magician, you know, uh he didn't, he never touched the ground. That's a lot of abnormal stuff I did, to make the book. But a lot of stuff I talked about that happened, her stealing my poem to give to my brother, that happened. A lot of wild stuff. Um, Leaving me at home during the Christmas play, during the Christmas parade, to punish me, and I sneaked away and went anyway. That happened. Uh, and then I really frame in the story of the Christmas parade, I really frame my mom's schizophrenia. I gave an example of how it started, what goes on, so it's there. And so I don't think I talked about it enough in my previous book, but I wanted to frame it. Okay, this how it went down. This what I experienced on the regular. So,
Okay, so it was schizophrenia that your mom had. It wasn't
yeah.
bipolar. I knew it was one of the, mental
No.
diseases. But now, is your aunt in this book? Is it your mother's sister?
Right, right. And she wanted, my brother was 3 years older, better looking. Um, he was the outgoing kid, big smile, all that. Of course, I looked up to him, wanted to be like him. But I was smarter, more curious, more, that thirst for knowledge. So, she would try to ratchet me down, to elevate him. So a lot of that is obvious in the book, but it all almost always blew up on, my brother because she wanted him to be who I was, but with the looks, you know. But he just had the looks. How they say, a good thing you're blonde or whatever. But he just had the looks. He didn't have nothing else, you know.
Sometimes that'll get you in, well, it'll get your foot in the door for
Get
a
your
lot
foot in
of
the door.
things. For a
Yeah, you
lot
got
of
to put
things. You
got
have
to
to,
put in a lot of doors.
yeah. So, without giving away the story of the memoir number 2,
It's okay.
you called her your bully.
Yeah.
So, what I'm trying to envision the timeline for your mother's mental illness and then your aunt. Were you living with them both? Did you end up living with your aunt after your mother? uh, just tell us kind of
Yeah,
the
sure.
timeline
Sure.
for the
Like
relationship.
from like birth up until about 9, we lived with my aunt. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, so she kind of had her way with me. Let's put it like that. I mean, I got all the beatings, and me and my brother did the same thing. Granted, I talked him into some things, but he talked to me in some things. But I was always, regardless, you know, got punished for it.
Mm.
So yeah, so that was hard. And then so after about 9, 10, I started to, go my separate way. And by that time, we were living with my mom. And well, my mom was living at my aunt's house too, but my aunt treated us like servants, you know.
Mm.
So kind of good we moved away, but well, it was really good, especially on my behind. It's good we moved away. But it all started, I guess she wanted to adopt my older brother, and my mom wouldn't let go of him. So she did everything she could to make him appear superior or make her appear that she would have been the better parent for him, which means she had to suppress the rest of us.
So how many siblings were there altogether?
Four, four. Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
I mean, it's interesting that you're able to look back on it and kind of smile and laugh.
Yeah.
Um, did it take a while before you can look back on those experiences the way you do now?
Oh yeah, and even what was weird to show you how misguided I was, I guess. Up until she threatened me, um, I still would have fought anybody that said anything negative about her. It's like, yeah, she mean to me, but she's my family, you know. And then somewhere between, I want to say maybe about 16, my brother used to always beat me up, and I would complain to my aunt. So finally, I got some courage, and beat him up. So he ran to my aunt to tell her, I beat him up. He's about 19, 20, whatever. Why'd you do that? She shows up, and give me the right. I had never disrespected, rolled my eyes, looked away while she talking to me, talked under my breath, always respected her, theater respected. So she showed up, and, not only told me this better not happen again, she showed me what she was working with, which was a third aid special. So that
Oh.
broke me. Like I never, I wasn't that kid that would push against authority. So like I never gave you any inclination that I would be hard to deal with or talk to or discipline. It just that broke me. That broke me.
Hmm. Well, it
Well,
just sounds like it was just really you were dealing with a lot. A lot of people aren't able to move forward and be successful when they've had that kind of experience, especially in childhood.
I guess that's that kind of leads into what I was about to say is I wonder the experience of writing this book, did it help you process all of this a bit more?
Oh, it did. It did. More so the first one than the second. It was that first one, Surviving Chaos, how I found peace at the beach bar that really, there was two instances, I broke down writing it, and but it helped. I need to get it out.
Mhm.
And but this one was more of, this is funny, y'all need to hear this, kind of thing. So I guess you could say I had compartmentalized all of it by then.
Mm. Well, tell us about your alter ego or your pen name that you write under, Dean Conan. And
Conan.
with Dean, you do novels, and you have a new one. You had part two. Now, is the second one out now?
It's out. It's called A Fool Indeed by Dean Conan.
Do you have a copy of it?
I don't.
Do you have a copy of the first one?
Yeah, I do. Hold on. The first one is Fool Me Thrice.
Okay, so they can
Monday
see
through
the difference.
Thursday.
See,
Yeah.
it's a full blown novel, Fool Me Thrice, and
Yeah,
then
that looks like a novel.
yeah.
It's
So
a lot of sexual content in this one. And
okay.
it's
Are you clutching the pearls, Rhonda?
Very
I mean, I tell people, I say it's a man's man um idea of romance and how we see it in a bad way. Okay. But but in the book, the guy's wealthy and Charlie Moe, he's wealthy and he loses all his money chasing women, philandering, gold diggers. And so he loses the family fortune, goes to work and trying to find love, trying to find money. And a little spoiler alert, he gets taken advantage of in the end. Okay. So in A Fool Indeed, he starts out happily married, but then he can't get over his loss. He can't get over being taken advantage of. So he goes back to try to capture some of the money that he lost. And he found out all that ain't so easy. It's more to it than just his money. It's more to it than, just getting in an argument or spat this guy about his money. He's about to lose everything going after this money.
So what made you decide told my two stories of my life where it's really like the hard knocks that I've been through. So, and now I'm gonna write a completely fictional character uh as another exercise in writing. What made you do that?
Um, you know, I kind of mentioned it in Surviving Chaos a little bit. My brother was one of those pretty boys, had women, and he had friends who were pretty boys. I got to know them. I got to watch the magic and all that, right? So I put a lot of things I observe and learn and Fool Me Thrice money changes everything. Okay.
Okay, so
So
Fool Me Thrice, the band on the cover is your brother,
pretty
more or
much, yeah,
less.
pretty much, yeah.
Well, truth is stranger than fiction. So a lot of fictional stories are based on real people. Just they're
Exactly.
not named.
Exactly.
Or they're inspired. Let me say it,
Mm.
by real people.
Yeah, let's say inspired.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
inspired by real people.
Inspired by real
Right. And you're right. And like I say, I felt writing your first book was hard and get better. And each book you write, or
Mhm.
easier, shall I say. So I like, I got some more stuff I like to tell. So I'll write a fiction book. And so once I built this story, then it was kind of easy to do A Fool Indeed. So somewhere down the line, I will do a trilogy.
Well, you did one thing that a lot of people don't do when they decide, I'm going to self-publish, I'm going to do a different take and do some fiction.
Mhm.
You got your cover done. Your cover
Mm.
really looks good.
Thank you. Thank you.
In both books.
Right.
And
Yeah.
for many people, a cover is what's going to attract them to the book.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Yes.
So you can't skip on that.
And I've been fortunate, like I said, I've been in a situation where I can put some money out there. And it's kind of my dream now, my kids are grown doing their thing. I'm like, this what dad want to do, So I can go after these things kind of a little bit more aggressive than I would have if I was, back with the family.
Okay. Now, is your family with you in Iraq? No.
No, no, my
Most people
kids,
don't take their families with them.
right?
There's
No, no.
nowhere to put them anyway.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Right. No, I got a daughter that's married in Atlanta, and I got a son about to get married in Dallas. So they're great. So he just, you know, I can do whatever I want to now. So I want to write, I want to tour, hopefully, hopefully do motivation speaking at some time.
Uh,
Mm.
that would be great because you definitely have a story to tell. And I'm not even just talking about the books. You have a story to tell.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that the hard thing is you don't want to tell all of it, like there's stuff that, you leave out.
Right.
But that I couldn't put in a comical or entertaining way. It's a lot of stuff I left out. So there's stuff I don't mind sharing, say in person or in a room or whatever, or someone could tell me something and I'm like, yeah, I can relate, blah blah blah. This how it would happen, or maybe this what you shouldn't do. Yeah, I definitely could do that.
Hmm. When you had your own children, and how do you think your upbringing with your mom and your aunt affected your parenting style?
I had a desire to be a parent. Weird, but I did, you know. And I was probably more of a pushover than I probably would have been if I hadn't had, the parents I had.
Mm.
Um, because, nobody really parented me. I just got lucky and just made it on my own. And
Okay.
so I guess in my head, I felt I wanted to fill that in for what I didn't have. Sounds weird, but
No, no, because I know that happens with when people uh did see I because my mother was excellent. She also was a disciplinarian.
uh-huh.
So she was old school. You just
Mhm.
so even though at the time I was growing up,
Mhm.
she had the right balance of love and discipline. It is a balance because you can your children can, you can be pushovers for your kids if you don't have that kind of backbone, and they can try you.
Right,
Or sometimes they can play both ends against the middle with the mother and the dad. And
right.
we tried it a couple of times, but it didn't really work. um so because my mom, if we tried to, my dad would say no most of the time when you would ask him stuff. Can you go somewhere? No. So we would ask my mom, and she would say, no, ask your dad, because if something happens, he'll blame it on me. But you would try it. You would try it. So I
Right.
just wondered how that affects a person. I know we're all a product of our upbringing from zero to whenever, we get grown. And my husband he didn't have his mom in his life. She wasn't abusive or anything. She just, it was a lot of them, and then she wasn't around that much. So he had to depend on his grandmother, but mostly his great grandmother. it was really who raised him when he was a kid. So we all are a product of that, whatever our parents sow into us from 0 to 18, and good or bad, for better or worse, we're products of that. Well, Harold, congratulations on your book projects and your perseverance, and the fact that you still decide to make your life meaningful, even with what you went through as a kid. Because a lot of people can't make the shift. You have to really be like single-minded. You said you compartmentalize some things, and that's really how a lot of people get through that kind of situation.
Right.
So let's show us your book cover again, your new
Yeah.
book, and then that one, My Bully, My Aunt, and Her Final Gift, which really could be fiction. It could be fiction just based on the cover.
Right.
We know it's not now that you're telling us, but and then the other book by Dean Conan, who's your pen name that you use for your fictional work,
Right.
Fool Me Thrice, and then the new one is A Fool Indeed.
Right. That's right.
Okay, and all your books are on Amazon, so
Yeah, and like I said, my bully is flying off the shelf. They on back order on the book, on the
that's good.
paperback, the ebook, and now the audiobook is there. Fool Indeed, the ebook, and the hardcover. They don't have the paperback there yet, and we're working on the audiobook on A Fool Indeed.
Okay.
But I'm hoping Fool Indeed picks up. Is I probably do more fiction, once my bullet run its course, I probably do more fiction, more Dean Conan books. But
Well, I have to stay connected so I can read those books.
But I'm glad to see this working for you in terms of your book selling and all of that. So we'll be seeing you soon, hopefully when you do another series of books, and continue success.
Okay, and hopefully I can get down there for your next book fest. I'm trying, but I keep so much in my hand, but I want to do your book fest.
Okay, well, it's October 23rd through the 25th. We expect to sell out by
Okay.
May.
Wow. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
just keep that in mind, because
I
we're
got
already at 55%.
Okay.
So
Wow. Okay.
yeah. So okay, take care, and we'll be
I
seeing you soon.
appreciate it. Yeah, everybody go out and get it. And when you see my content, like and share. I'm hoping to do big things, and who knows, maybe Oprah will call. Okay.
Yeah, maybe so.
Right.
But in the
Okay.
meantime, I have like a page, so I'll be keeping in touch.
Okay, I appreciate it. Nice meeting you as well.
Okay, have a good night and stay safe in Iraq.
I sure will. Thanks, you guys. Take care too.
Okay.
God bless. All right.
Okay. Well, we are bringing on our final guest, and um, she is no stranger to the reading public or this show, because when she releases a new book, we have her on Black Authors Matter TV. And today was her release date for book 5 in her series that's set in Lexington, Alabama. And the new book is called Bent But Not Broken. So as soon as she gets connected, there we go. What happened?
Huh?
What happened? You were looking behind you.
No, I was trying to see if I had that book yet. I don't see it on my shelf.
No, it just came out today. If you had it, you would be ahead of the game.
I try to stay ahead of the game, and I've been following this series. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
have
have too. I have too. I don't have this one yet, but I read all the other books. The other 4 I've read. I read Double Lives over the Christmas holidays.
the 4th book was the twins, right?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
haven't read the one with the twins yet. I have it. I haven't read it yet, so I have to get on that one.
Okay. Mary, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV. Can you hear us? Okay, her microphone's not there. Your sound is not. At first, she was connecting audio, and now it's not connected. So let me see. Now it says it's connecting to audio.
No, it said did not connect.
Something's going on.
Mary, you might have to log out and log back in or something.
Let me see. Let me I don't know. I sent her a message in the chat. Maybe she'll see that because we can't I don't think she can hear us. I don't know. Yeah, she's gonna try it. So hopefully we'll get Mary back because she's in California. So she is it's still daylight where she is. And sometimes she said they have blackouts or brownouts or what where she lives. So let's see if we can get it to work this time. So I see the camera, but I still don't see a microphone on there.
It says
It
connected.
says it's connecting to the audio. Oh, there's a click. Okay. All right. So all we need to do is unmute.
Oh, unmute.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. Right. Yay. Okay.
are you good? You're good.
Okay. Well,
Hey,
welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
always a pleasure. Been
And
thinking
today
about
is
all
your
that.
book release day. Do you have a copy of your
Yep.
book handy?
Oh, shoot. I'm not at my regular place. I don't think I have. Well,
Well,
hold on.
okay. All
Give me
right.
just 2 seconds.
Her characters are amazing.
Yeah, she does a great job with their characterization. You don't know whether to love these people or hate them.
And it's a lot of laugh out loud moments.
Okay.
When you read her book.
Copy of the ARC. I don't have the hard copy yet. Yeah, I haven't picked them up yet. But it went #1 today on Amazon.
Was it? Well,
#1
congratulations.
new release. Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations on
What
that.
happens when you have unforgettable characters? Because your characters are certainly unforgettable.
Well, I think so. I try to make them unforgettable,
I was telling Rhonda in the audience, your books have a lot of laugh out loud moments.
Well,
like
I
when you
know.
be reading them, and it's just like I read Double Lives, and the line from Double Lives that I remember the most, which really had me laughing out loud, was she was describing a man. One of the twins was describing a man, and you wrote that he was as dull as a butter knife. I thought that was hilarious.
We've all known men like that.
You could get.
See, what I like about your characters is that, like I was saying, you never know whether to love them or hate them, because because I mean, as much as I cheer for like Hubert, I can't stand him sometimes.
Well, see, that's what makes people exciting. We don't want people that don't have any flaws.
Exactly. I tell people that all the time. It's nothing wrong with having a complicated character.
I
think it makes them more interesting.
Oh yeah. Well, I've created the kind of characters that I like to read about.
Okay. Well, I find it to be funny that it's always somebody in your books that you say to yourself, how can she be so dumb? How can she be so gullible?
Okay.
Why is she believing that? Why does she believe her? So
it's interesting though that I don't know what came first, your books or the popularity of lavender marriages. I just recently learned what a lavender marriage was.
Okay.
So I still don't know.
What'd you say?
This is new information.
Yeah, a lavender marriage is basically somebody who is gay who either marries another gay person or a straight person to keep up appearances, which is basically what Hubert did.
Right. There's a lot of people like that.
Okay, I've heard it referred to something different. I've heard it referred to the woman. If it's a woman married to a gay man, I've heard her referred to as his beard.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Okay, but I hadn't heard about the lavender thing. And I
me neither. This is the first time I heard
that under
advisement. I'll be looking out for that.
So it's new information for me too.
So
that's what I was just wondering. Did this give what gave you the idea to even start a series like this or to create a character like Hubert?
Like Hubert?
Mm-hmm. Or just the whole series. I read all 4 books.
Yeah.
I haven't read this new one yet, but I plan to. But it's an amazing. The Lexington, Alabama. And it's a small town, but it's a whole lot going on.
Whole lot going on. Yeah. I start with a single idea and I try to find something that hasn't been done to death. And I haven't read any books that time period. Because it was illegal to be gay back in that time period, And I said, what if a Black man, who was kind of well off and, let's see how he would handle this. And I'm sure there were a lot of them back then and there still are. And so that was the original idea. And I just taken and ran with it. And once I got started, the characters just kind of told a story. And I was just kind of directing them. It got real easy after a while.
Okay.
Well, did you have to do a little research for how things were? Because what always unnerves me in the books is how people just walk into each other's house without knocking on the door.
Oh no, but they say that was typical. Yeah, when we lived where we lived at in Alabama and in Ohio, everybody knew everybody. It's a little area where all the Black folks live. We didn't even we didn't even have a lock on our door. You just walk right in. I mean, some people did knock, but the people that knew you well, that were close friends, they didn't knock. You never knew when somebody was going to be in your house. That might not be true all over the South, but where I lived in Alabama and in Ohio, people just walk up on your porch and let themselves in.
Yeah, my parents, kind of the little towns they were in, if you could really call them towns, the rural areas they grew up in, they were like that. So that was, and they were in North Carolina, rural North Carolina. So yeah, it was, you didn't need to lock your doors. No. For one, people didn't live that close together. A lot of them, like they had farms. It wasn't like your house was next to another house. No, the next house might be a half a mile or whatever. So, but yeah, everybody knew everybody.
Oh yeah. And everybody knew everybody's business.
Yeah, that's true too. So. When I was real small, my grandma had a party line. And we weren't supposed to, but we would pick up. So the party line, everybody in the little community used that one line. Yeah. And we would pick up the phone when we would because we would go visit her in the summer for a couple of weeks. We would pick up the phone and listen to eavesdrop on the neighbor down the street that was talking to somebody. We did that. So yeah, I don't know if you had a party line in one of your books, but that would be a funny storyline to put in one of them. Because since you write about that period of time.
Yeah. Well, I thought about the party line, but I didn't want to deal with that. I wanted to phone conversations to be a little more private because very few Black folks back then had phones anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. So tell us about Bent But Not Broken, because I read The Double Lives and it was about the twins. So what's going on?
She's a woman married to a man. She thinks she's got a good marriage until they get married, and he's unfaithful and violent, and so she puts up with it for a while. They have a daughter. She wants to wait until the daughter gets grown, and the daughter's kind of rebellious, but she's dealing with this rebellious daughter and an unfaithful and a violent husband. And so she keeps telling her friends that, when my daughter gets out of school, I'm leaving. And before her daughter gets out of school, or right about the time, she meets a man who is like Prince Charming. They meet at the fishing bank and they start talking. One thing leads to another, and they have an affair. And she tells him what kind of life she's going through with her husband. And so, long story short, they agreed to run away together. And just before they can pack up and leave, her husband has a stroke. And she can't leave him. She's in the church and whatnot. And she would feel guilty. And so she has a stroke. The husband has a stroke. And she tells the boyfriend, well, I can't leave him now. He needs me. He's paralyzed, blah, blah, blah. And the boyfriend, instead of being sympathetic, he turns on her like a dime. I mean, he became a stalker from hell. Oh. And it goes on, and he's stalking her in ways that's too much detail for me to go into right now.
Okay.
Well, then he stops after a few months, and she thinks, oh, it's gone, it's over with, I'm fine, I'm free. And then her daughter, who lives in the next town over, says, oh, I'm coming home, for a visit, and I'm bringing my fiance. She comes home, and guess who the fiance is?
Oh, the man. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that's when the story really that's when all hell breaks loose.
Okay, well,
he gets what he deserves.
Yeah, I know it's amazing how much hell breaks loose in that little town.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's what I'm saying. That little tiny Lexington, Alabama. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on.
A whole lot of stuff going on.
But and I think you last time you were on when the Double Lives came out. Did you say that you found out that there was a Lexington, Alabama? There actually is.
Which I didn't know. I got an email from some white folks, and they were saying, they were saying you put Lexington on the map. And because I usually make up fictional towns, but sometimes I'll use a real town. Like one of my books is set in Berkeley, and one is set in Miami, and so on. But I just randomly, and usually I will check to make sure it's not a real town. But what happened was, I was in my other series, the Neighbor series. The people used to go visit people, and I just said, oh, let's say Lexington, because there was a Lexington in Ohio that we used to go visit, and I didn't think to check. And so I didn't know there really was a Lexington until I got a bunch of emails from some white folks. And they were saying, read your book, you put us on the map. And I said, oh, Lord, hope I didn't say it bad. But this was written during a period when none of them would have been alive anyway. Been born anyway.
Okay. Well, you might have picked up a whole new set of readers because of that.
Well, I did, because they spread the word. And I belong to the Alabama Writers Forum. And so they made a big deal out of it. And I said, oh, Lord, I hope I don't get sued by somebody. But, when you're writing something creative, you do have some limitations. And so sometimes you just have to really do your research and make sure there's no street or something in a certain town. But that one got away from me. And so now I'm stuck with 6 books set in Lexington, Alabama. The one that's coming out next year, of course, will be the last one in the Lexington series, and it's also set in that little town. Boy, is it gonna be a humdinger.
Oh, okay. I thought this was the last one.
Oh no, that's the
fifth one. 5. Okay, so there's gonna be 6. There's a 6th one. Okay. They've been every year because Mrs. Wiggins is the first one, and I read that one in 2021. I'm not sure when it came out.
I think it was 21.
Okay, that's when I read it, and then I read the other one.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed Mrs. Wiggins. I think that's still probably my favorite of the series. And I keep wanting Mrs. Wiggins to come back, and I have to keep reminding myself she
died. She died.
But yeah, honestly, she died.
Well, I have 35 books out now, and that has sold more copies than any of my other books. Because the first one, the best-selling book was God Don't Like Ugly, and then Mama Ruby. And now when Mrs. Wiggins came out, and it's still selling like hotcakes.
And the cover of Mrs. Wiggins is very compelling.
Yeah.
It draws you in.
Cover. And everybody that saw it, they said, that looks like Angela Bassett. Or, some other singer that they mentioned. And I said, because she's kind of mysterious, look like a church woman.
She looks very dignified.
Yeah, dignified church woman.
Yeah, on there. And but I enjoy Double Lives. That's a completely different set of characters.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
I have to. Well, that's interesting. I did notice, and that's why I haven't gotten to it yet because I knew it was a different set of characters. And so I wanted to I was finished with Hubert and his
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have the twins. Somewhere on one of these bookshelves. I was looking for it, and then Gwen thought I was crazy because I kept looking at my bookshelf.
But I thought you were looking for the new book, and it just came out today, so I didn't think you would have it unless you got an art.
But now, is the new book, is it related to the twins, or are they different characters?
No, it's a whole okay. The last 3 books in the series are standalone stories. The only connection is that they're set in the same little town.
Okay.
You know, and I might mention like the funeral home or something like that, but that's the only connection. But these are all new characters, totally different story, standalone story.
Any cameos?
The only cameos, the Fuller brothers funeral home. You know, I mentioned they're the ones that came. They're mentioned in, you know, Mrs. Wiggins, and then in Empty Vows, and then they mentioned in with the twins.
Double Life. I really, of the 3, I like Mrs. Wiggins the best.
Well, that's what everybody's
because
saying.
It set the pace for everything else. You know, the story started with that one. And so everything else flowed from Mrs. Wiggins. But Double Lives was good.
I can't remember the second wife's name, but that second wife just made me want to shake her.
Oh, Jessie? You talking about Jessie?
Yes, Jessie.
Well, why? Because she was lying and duping him and tricked him.
She was plotting. Okay, was that the one where she pretended she was pregnant and then
she
made him think he had gotten drunk. She made him think he had gotten drunk and taken advantage of her.
I gotta let you know, don't get drunk off of one sip of wine now.
But no, she slipped something in his drink. Okay.
Yeah, that was. I mean, people do go to extremes though when they're trying to get something done.
Get what they want. Yeah,
they do. But your characters are just really, they're just so colorful. That's the word I want to use.
Colorful, good ways.
And your books are funny. I mean, there's so many laugh out loud moments in your books.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like shocking. Oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Or it's just they're really good. They're page turners. I read Double Lives, I think, in a day and a half. So yeah, I kept reading. I couldn't put it down. So and on all of them, I read them all fast.
Double Lives books, so I can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, you need to read Double Lives about those twins.
I'm reading 3 books right now. I mean, one on audio and one on ebook. And then there's another book I'm reading. But yeah, I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna have to fit Mary in there somewhere.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So do you have a title for the last book yet?
Oh yeah, I'm almost done with. It's called Bad Seeds.
Oh, okay.
And this is a lady, you know, a lady like we all know, and she's kind of, well, I won't say rich, but she's well off for somebody in that time period, especially Black, because they own a barbecue place, and she trusts her fiance and her best friend. Okay, but what she doesn't know is they both have dark sides, and they're having an affair behind her back, and they're plotting to rob her. But what they don't know is she got a dark side too.
Okay.
And when she finds out what they've been up to and what they're plotting and planning, boy, does she take revenge on them in a way that you never would have imagined. And my editors were crazy about it. And when you can get past your editor and your agent to like a book on the first time around, because usually in the past, I'd have to put 4 or 5 or 6 drafts through to my agent or my editor to get the okay. Oh, okay, go ahead, the green light. But from Mrs. Wiggins on, the first time was it. when I submitted the proposal, they went for it just like that. And especially with this last book, Bad Seeds.
Okay, well, I can't wait to dig into both of them.
Well, I hope you enjoy it.
Nice. I mean, yeah.
And you said it launched at #1.
You're falling on to something.
Huh?
Oh, what did you say, Rhonda?
What she say?
I was just saying you're on to something. I said this whole series is awesome.
Well, it's fun. It's easy stories to write, you know. And I'm lazy. I don't pick difficult things to write about. Like, you need to be going out traveling around. All my research is done on Google.
Okay.
When I already know, I go straight to Google. I used to have to run the back before, you know, the internet and all this. Oh, I had to spend so much time in the library looking up stuff and doing this and that. But I can't tell you how thankful I am that we have Google now. Saved my life.
If you want to know something, you'll be like, hey, Alexa, tell me such and such.
You know, I'm not familiar enough with Alexas or whatever. No, I use Google.
Okay.
Google tells me everything. And I'm talking about medical issues.
Okay.
History, you name it. I look it up. I find it on Google.
Okay. Because your stories flow so well that you don't really think about its research involved.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes, okay, now let me
the reader, I'm saying from the reader's standpoint.
Yeah. Okay, when I was writing the God Don't Like Ugly, no, when I was writing the Mama Ruby series, I mentioned something about crock pots, and some reader who really knew her stuff kind of educated me, and she said this is set in 19 whatever that year was. Crock pots weren't invented until such and such a year, and I said, "Oops." Now, but you just never know. You just think certain things have always been around. You know, who thought crock pots weren't around in the early 60s and whatever.
I remember when we get excited about microwave ovens because we were like, "Oh, you have a microwave oven?"
Yeah,
I remember when they were new.
Me too.
And it hasn't been that long ago. You know, but crock pots, my mother didn't have a slow cooker, so, and she was an amazing cook. She had, one year we gave her, she wanted an electric frying pan from the kids, like, and we gave her that for a gift, one of her gifts, Mother's Day or birthday or something like that. So that was what she used that a lot, her electric frying pan.
Electric frying pan? Wow, I always wondered how those work. Because my mother always used a big old iron pan with a lot of
iron. Yeah, she used that before she got the electric one, and then it was on from there. And she loved it. But you know, she was a traditional cook. You know,
yeah, my mother was too. Made everything from scratch.
Yes. Yeah, excellent cooking.
I like to cook from scratch, but sometimes I'll take a shortcut. I mean, and even if I buy something from the store, I'll still document. It feels like it's homemade.
Yeah, well, you can do like a hybrid, I call it.
Yeah, I'm a hybrid.
Home cook, but not every element of it is.
I still turn my nose up at a store-bought sweet potato pie. I can't do it. I have to bake.
You know, I tried the one that Patti LaBelle put out, and it was okay, but it was not like Mama's, you know, Grandma.
Yeah.
There's certain things that's not
have to be homemade, but you can do a mixture, and you can do what I say when I cook. I do the Gwen spin on it.
Ooh,
so I take a recipe and I'll put the Gwen spin on it and make it an even better recipe.
Oh, okay.
And two of my favorite ingredients are butter and heavy cream.
Do you use buttermilk?
Yes, but I don't. I do buttermilk if I make pancakes, or I use buttermilk when I fry chicken. And I do the buttermilk with some spices and a marinade kind of thing. Soak it in there for a couple of hours before I add the.
When I come to Houston, Gwen's gonna actually let me eat. I'm not gonna say she hasn't invited me because she'll be like, I'm cooking, but then I'm not able to get over there. So one of these I'm gonna able to eat over there.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, one of these times, because I am a great cook and I love cooking for people. I love cooking for people.
I eat out a lot. We got some pretty good soul food restaurants out here. You know, this one lady, she's from Texas.
Okay.
And, my gosh, she cooked some chicken that'll melt in your mouth. Oh my God. And her greens. Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, man, we're at the end of our show. And
that went by fast.
Yeah, it went by fast. It's an amazing. You have had an amazing writing career, and we love your books. And congratulations on this latest book. I'm sure it's amazing. I can't wait to read it.
Good. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Okay. Have a great night.
Okay, y'all too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, that's it for this week. If you all haven't been voting for the Black Authors Matter TV Book Awards, the ballot is online. Go to our Facebook page and scroll down a little bit till you see our logo that says Black Authors Matter TV Awards, and you can vote from now until April 3rd. That's it for this week. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.